Long Island medium Theresa Caputo, victim of horrific accident, family asks for prayers from fans. Popular medium Theresa Caputo was involved in a tragic car accident and is currently hospitalized. His physical condition is said to be critical. Doctors are doing their best to revive him, but the situation is still critical. Theresa's family and close friends are concerned for her well-being and have urged everyone to pray for her. Her fans are expressing love and support on social media and wishing the beloved star a speedy recovery. The rain poured heavily as Theresa Caputo drove down a quiet road in Long Island. She had just finished a private reading, bringing comfort to a grieving mother who had lost her son. The session had drained her emotionally, but she felt at peace, knowing she had helped someone find closure. As she turned onto the highway, headlights suddenly blinded her. A truck, speeding uncontrollably, swerved into her lane. There was no time to react. The deafening sound of metal crashing against metal echoed through the night. Then, silence. When Theresa opened her eyes, she was surrounded by darkness. She felt weightless, as if floating between worlds. Voices murmured in the distance, familiar yet distant. Suddenly, a soft glow appeared, and in it stood her father, who had passed away years ago. "Theresa, it's not your time," he said gently. "But I feel so tired," she whispered. "You have more work to do, sweetheart. People need you." With those words, the darkness faded and pain crashed into her like a wave. She was back in her body, trapped in the wreckage of her car. Faintly, she could hear sirens approaching. Theresa was rushed to the hospital, where doctors fought desperately to save her. News of the accident spread like wildfire. Fans flooded social media with prayers, lighting candles, and sharing their stories of how Theresa had touched their lives. Her daughter, Victoria, stood outside the hospital, pleading with the public. "My mom has always been there for so many people. Now she needs you. Please pray for her." The energy of thousands of prayers seemed to fill the hospital room. Machines beeped, doctors worked tirelessly, and slowly, miraculously, Theresa's condition stabilized. Days later, as she lay in her hospital bed, she opened her eyes. The first thing she saw was her family's relieved faces. "You came back to us," her son Larry Jr. whispered. Theresa smiled weakly. "I had to. I still have work to do." From that moment on, she knew her gift wasn't just about connecting people with the dead. It was about reminding them, reminding herself, that love, hope, and faith could bridge any gap, even between life and death. And as she healed, she promised to continue being a light in the darkness for all who needed her. However, the Wilson family had been struggling for months. Ever since their father, James, passed away unexpectedly, the house had been filled with grief, silence, and unspoken pain. His wife, Linda, tried to stay strong for their two children, Emily and Jake, but nothing felt the same. James had been the heart of the family, always making them laugh, always knowing what to say. Now, there was only emptiness. Desperate for closure, Linda reached out to Long Island medium Theresa Caputo. She had seen Theresa help others find peace, and though she was skeptical, she was also desperate. When Theresa arrived at their home, she immediately felt the overwhelming grief in the air. "Your husband is here," she said gently. "He wants you to know he's been watching over you all." Tears welled up in Linda's eyes. I just want to know if he's okay." Theresa closed her eyes for a moment. "He's more than okay. He's at peace, and he wants you to stop blaming yourself." Linda gasped. She had been blaming herself, thinking she should have done more, should have seen the signs of his illness. "He says you did everything you could," Theresa continued. "He wants you to let go of the guilt and remember the love. He's showing me a blue coffee mug. Does that mean anything?" Jake, who had been quiet the whole time, suddenly spoke up. "That was Dad's favorite mug. He used it every morning." Theresa smiled. "He wants you to keep using it. He says it'll remind you that he's always with you." Emily, who had been hugging her knees on the couch, wiped her eyes. "Does he know how much I miss him?" He does, Theresa assured her. He hears you when you talk to him. Every night, when you whisper, "Good night, Dad," he whispers it back. The family broke down in tears, but this time, it wasn't just from sorrow. It was relief. They felt James's presence. They knew he was still with them. Before Theresa left, she turned to Linda one last time. James says it's time to start living again. He doesn't want you to be stuck in sadness. He wants you to laugh, to love, to keep moving forward, because that's what he would have done. That night, for the first time in months, the Wilson family sat together at the dinner table, sharing memories of James. They laughed, they cried, but most importantly, they felt him there. And for the first time since his passing, they truly believed they would be okay. However, Theresa Caputo had always known that Season 6 of Long Island Medium would be a turning point, but she never expected it to be this intense. The season was packed with tearful reunions, unexpected messages from the other side, and moments that left even the most skeptical viewers in awe. The season opened with one of the most emotional readings Theresa had ever conducted. A woman named Lisa came in, desperate for closure after her mother's sudden passing. As soon as Lisa sat down, Theresa felt a powerful presence. "She's here," Theresa whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Lisa's eyes widened, and before she could say a word, Theresa continued, "She's saying something about a locket with a picture." Lisa gasped, "Oh my God, she gave me a locket before she passed, and I never opened it. I was too scared." Tears streamed down Lisa's face as Theresa relayed her mother's message. "Open it. You'll find the words I couldn't say." Later that evening, Lisa opened the locket on camera. Inside, there was a tiny piece of folded paper with a handwritten note. "I will always be with you." In another shocking moment, Theresa was called to a family home in Long Island, where a mysterious painting was causing unexplained disturbances. The homeowners, Mark and Sarah, reported flickering lights, cold spots, and even whispers coming from the painting. As soon as Theresa entered the house, she shivered. "There's a strong energy here," she said. As she placed her hands on the painting, her expression darkened. "A woman, she's trapped here." With the help of a guided spirit session, Theresa uncovered the truth. The painting belonged to a woman named Eleanor, who had died tragically in the 1800s. Her spirit remained tied to the artwork, searching for peace. With a heartfelt blessing, Theresa helped Eleanor cross over, and the disturbances ceased. One of the most heart-wrenching readings of the season involved a young man named Jake, who had lost his father in a car accident. Jake had carried guilt for years, believing he could have done something to prevent it. When Theresa connected with Jake's father, the room filled with an overwhelming warmth. "He's holding a baseball," Theresa said, smiling softly. Jake's hands trembled. "That was our thing. We played catch every Sunday." His father's message was simple yet powerful. "It wasn't your fault. I am so proud of you." Jake broke down in tears, finally releasing years of pain. From lost messages to haunted objects and deep emotional healing, Season 6 of Long Island Medium was a roller coaster of emotions. And the best part? The journey wasn't over yet. However, the auditorium buzzed with anticipation. Over 800 people had gathered to witness Theresa Caputo, the renowned Long Island medium, deliver messages from the beyond. Some were skeptics, some were hopeful, and others carried the weight of unresolved grief. Theresa, dressed in her signature high heels and teased blonde hair, took center stage. The moment she closed her eyes, a shift in energy rippled through the room. "I'm getting a strong presence from the left side," she announced. "Someone here lost a brother in a sudden accident. I feel like it was a car crash." A woman in the third row gasped, clutching her chest. "That's my brother Danny," she cried. Theresa's eyes locked onto her. "He says you weren't there when he passed, and you've been carrying guilt about it. He wants you to know it wasn't your fault." Tears streamed down the woman's face. "I always felt like I should have been there." Theresa smiled warmly. "He's at peace, and he's grateful for the way you kept his memory alive. The readings continued. One by one, she called out names, described intimate details only the deceased and their loved ones could know. A man learned his late father had seen his newborn son. A grieving mother heard from her daughter, who reassured her she was still around, watching over the family. Then, Theresa's face turned serious. There's someone here who lost a loved one and never found out what really happened to them. A hush fell over the crowd. In the back, a man raised his shaking hand. My sister disappeared 15 years ago. We never got answers. Theresa closed her eyes. She's telling me she was taken by someone she knew. She's showing me a place near water, a dock. I see a red boat. The man's face went pale. That's where they last saw her. His voice cracked. We never found her. Theresa took a deep breath. She wants you to know she fought to come home, and she says, the truth is coming. The audience sat in stunned silence. It was more than a reading, it was a revelation. As the event ended, people left with lighter hearts, some with closure, others with hope. But all agreed on one thing. Theresa Caputo's gift was real, and that night she had changed lives forever. However, it was a crisp autumn evening when Theresa Caputo walked onto the stage, her signature blonde hair bouncing as she greeted the packed audience. The energy in the room was thick with anticipation. People had traveled from all over, clinging to the hope that tonight they might hear from someone they had lost. As Theresa scanned the crowd, she felt an overwhelming pull toward a woman in the third row. I'm getting the name Mikkel. Does that mean anything to you? She asked. The woman gasped, clutching her chest. Yes, Michael was my husband. He passed away last year. Theresa nodded, her face full of warmth. He's telling me he never got to say goodbye properly, and that has been weighing on you. He wants you to know he was there in the room, holding your hand, even if you couldn't see him. Tears streamed down the woman's face. I was afraid he died alone. I've been carrying that guilt for so long. Theresa smiled. He says, babe, let it go. I felt your love, always. He's also mentioning a white rose. Do you understand what that means? The woman gasped again. That's the flower he used to bring me every anniversary. I was just thinking about how I won't get one this year. Theresa chuckled softly. Well, he's saying to check your doorstep when you get home. The woman nodded, sobbing but smiling through her tears. The entire room could feel the connection, the love that transcended time and space. As Theresa moved on to the next spirit waiting to speak, she took a deep breath. This was why she did what she did, to bring comfort, closure, and the reminder that love never truly dies. Hello lovely viewers, welcome to my channel. I am Mina. Hope your day is so well. If you like the video, don't forget to subscribe the channel.